If I had to pick the exact moment I knew something was off, it was when I caught Olivia photocopying my handwritten notes. She looked up, smiled wide, too wide, and said, "You just explain things so clearly. I want to study your structure." It was week 3 of her onboarding. She was my shadow, officially assigned to learn the ropes of the client success strategy role I'd spent the last 4 years perfecting from scratch. I'd built this department from zero. I'd stayed late, traveled on weekends, designed workflows so airtight even the COO complimented them once on Slack. Now suddenly there was Olivia, fresh out of grad school, silk blouses, perfect LinkedIn-ready hair, acting like she was here to admire me. I thought she was sweet, a little too sweet, but harmless. So I taught her everything. How to build a quarterly pitch deck without drowning in data. How to spot red flags in churn metrics before they become fatal. How to handle polite sabotage from sales reps who overpromised. She took notes like a machine, nodded, laughed at my dry jokes, sent follow-up emails with "thanks for the wisdom" in the subject line. I wasn't threatened. I was flattered. Until the director of product accidentally CC'd me on an email meant for the VP. The subject line: Q2 strategy plan from Olivia. No draft, no review, just from Olivia. My stomach dropped. I opened it. And there it was, my deck, my structure, my insights, my formatting, even my phrasing, predictive friction, I'd literally invented during a Red Bull high 3 quarters ago. Except now it had her name on it. No mention of me. I stared at the screen, hands tingling. I forwarded it to myself, then deleted it from my inbox. She was just being ambitious, right? Maybe she thought it was a team submission. Maybe she forgot. The next morning I smiled tight and asked, "Hey, Liv saw your strategy doc. Looked familiar." She blinked. "Oh, yeah, I was really inspired by the frameworks you showed me. I hope that's okay." I nodded. But something inside me shifted. Because that wasn't an apology. It was a warning. Over the next 2 weeks, things got weirder. Our skip-level manager, Tanya, stopped replying to my end-of-week recaps. Olivia, meanwhile, started looping in directors on projects I was already leading, CCing them with perky little updates that read like a performance review with glitter. Then someone anonymously reported a hostile tone in our team's Slack thread. Guess who got pulled into a meeting with HR? Not Olivia. Me. "Just a check-in," they said. "No formal complaint, just be mindful." I asked to see the message. They said it was confidential. After the call, Olivia popped her head into my office and said, "Everything okay?" I nodded. She smiled like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. And I realized she was positioning me. Not for mentorship, not for collaboration, but for removal. The week before performance reviews, I found a folder in our shared drive titled Training Archives Lives Copy. Inside were my SOPs renamed, my client templates rebranded, and a document labeled Suggested Q3 Role Redefinition, Draft. I opened it. The entire document was a proposal to merge my role with hers. Reduce redundancy. Streamline strategic continuity. A final bullet point. Tara could potentially move to a more analytics-focused role to support back-end needs. Translation: demote me, promote her. I nearly threw up in my chair. I printed the file, stuffed it into my tote bag, and called my best friend as I drove home, yelling into Bluetooth, "She's trying to get me fired and take my damn job." My friend said, "Then you need to hit record." I paused. "What?" "You need proof. You think HR's gonna take your word over Miss LinkedIn MBA? You need receipts." That night, I downloaded a voice recorder app to my phone. Labeled the icon meditation timer. And the next morning, I hit record before I even left the parking lot. The trap was almost too easy. 3 days later, I walked into the kitchen to grab tea. Olivia was already there, holding court with one of the VPs, talking strategy like she'd invented it. I said nothing. Just walked past her, smiled. She turned and said, a little too loud, "Hey Tara, I found a few more places we could optimize your slide deck." I made notes if you want them. I turned slowly. Sure, happy to review. She smiled wider. Great, just want to make sure everything's super aligned for when Tanya presents it upstairs. Don't want it to feel too legacy, you know. Legacy. Like outdated. Like me. My phone was still recording in my back pocket. I walked away, smiling, because I finally understood the game. She wasn't just gunning for my promotion. She thought she'd already won it. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because what Olivia didn't know. That anonymous HR complaint wasn't as anonymous as she thought. I'd just found an email, forwarded by mistake, from her personal Gmail. Subject line: RE concerns Ray, Tara M. PLS delete thread. The subject line alone was a confession. RE concerns Ray, Tara M. PLS delete thread. It had been forwarded to me by mistake, probably a misclick while she was juggling her web of lies, or karma finally clocking in. I stared at the sender line. Olivia Brenner87@gmail.com. Not her company email. Her personal one. The body of the email was short, but lethal. Hey Tanya, just wanted to loop back on that Slack tone thing I mentioned. I know you said you'd handle it discreetly. Appreciate you not putting my name in the file. Can you please delete this thread after? I didn't breathe. She filed the HR complaint. The fake, untraceable one. The one that landed me in that casual HR meeting. The one that suddenly made my manager go cold. The one that had nothing to do with job performance and everything to do with manufacturing a paper trail. She was building a case. Carefully, smiling the whole time. I printed the email. Then I saved it twice on a flash drive in the cloud. Next, I started building my own archive. Folder name, insurance. It held the leaked email from product with her name on my deck. The shared folder of renamed SOPs. The Q3 role redefinition document where I was downgraded. Audio from the kitchen where she called my work legacy. A few more voice memos where she referred to adjusting the optics of our joint projects to make her more front-facing. By the end of the week, I had enough to bury her. But I didn't go nuclear yet. Because I wanted to be strategic. She played the long game. Fine. I'd play smarter. That Friday, Tanya sent an email. Quick sync next week, promotions. Monday afternoon, just you and me. Translation: she was either going to offer me the role or politely explain why I was being passed over. And I already knew which one it would be. That same day, Olivia dropped by my desk, wearing a buttercream blouse and that laminated grin. You'll kill that meeting, she said. No matter what happens, I just hope they recognize your staying power. Staying power. I nearly choked. You know, she added, I've always admired how you stuck around through so many pivots. Most people would have evolved. There it was again. That dig she'd perfected into a compliment. I smiled back. Thanks, it's been a very educational year. She tilted her head, same. And then, right before she turned away, she whispered, just make sure you don't overplay your hand. I froze. That was a threat. A warning that she knew I knew. And she was daring me to blink. I didn't. The weekend passed in slow motion. I reviewed my receipts 5 times. Re-recorded my statement for HR. Wrote down bullet points in case Tanya blindsided me. At 3:55 p.m. Monday, I walked into her glass-walled office, phone in my tote, recorder already running. Tara, she said, gesturing to the chair, thanks for coming. I sat down, smoothed my dress, and waited. She launched into it immediately. So first off, I want to acknowledge the incredible work you've done here. You're a cornerstone, I hope you know that. And yet, no promotion. I felt it before she said it. She glanced at her laptop, avoided eye contact. That said, the executive team is going in a different direction with the strategy role. They've decided to reimagine it slightly, fold it into a more cross-functional leadership model. I blinked. And Olivia's going to be spearheading that transition. Boom. There it was. The hit. I stayed silent. Of course, we'd still love your support on analytics, Tanya added quickly. You've got a deep understanding of the backend. Is this based on performance? I asked flatly. Tanya froze. Because I'd like to review the performance data that led to this decision and cross-reference it with the last 3 quarterly wins I personally led. She opened her mouth. But I kept going. Also, before we finalize anything, I think it's worth flagging a few documents. I slid a flash drive across the table, including evidence of IP misuse, a falsified HR complaint, and a few audio files that might help clarify who's really behind the optics management happening here. Tanya stared at the flash drive like it might bite. What is this? Documentation. I stood. And I've CC'd legal, just in case this meeting goes sideways. By 5 p.m., I got a call from HR. They wanted an official statement. By 6:30, Olivia's desk was cleared out. No goodbye. And by 9, the Slack thread erupted. Some said she resigned. Some said it was a sudden family emergency. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because Tanya scheduled another meeting. Private. Just me, her, and legal. Subject line. Ray, strategic realignment, confidential discussion. My hands were still shaking when I clicked open the invite. Because I knew the final twist was coming. I just didn't know whose head it would take with it. Tuesday morning, 8:15 a.m. sharp. I was sitting in a glass-walled conference room that overlooked the downtown skyline, but all I could focus on was the legal rep's pen, clicking in a steady rhythm like a countdown. Tanya sat opposite me, wearing her neutral expression, the one she reserved for difficult decisions and performance reviews that involved corporate gaslighting. I want to start by thanking you, she said, hands folded. What you brought forward was serious. The legal guy, Ben something, nodded but said nothing. He was there to observe, to record, to ensure no one said anything actionable without 5 disclaimers. Tanya took a breath. We conducted an internal review over the last 24 hours. Your documents were thorough, painfully so. I didn't flinch. Olivia submitted multiple materials under her own name that were, at minimum, collaborative work, and in many cases, clearly originated from you. She paused. More concerning, however, were the communications with HR, specifically, the anonymous complaint and the email you provided. That violates several policies around workplace conduct and false reporting. Translation, she was done, toasted. Olivia is no longer with the company, Tanya said finally. I stared straight ahead, voluntarily. Another pause. Let's just say it was mutually decided. Of course. Heaven forbid they label it what it was, sabotage by stealth with a severance bonus. I crossed my legs, keeping my voice calm, and the strategy roll. Ben looked up. Tanya inhaled, held it, exhaled. The executive team has re-reviewed the candidates. They'd like to offer it to you. Just like that. No apology, no celebration. Just a clean pivot to avoid a lawsuit. But I wasn't smiling. Because I'd seen the inside now. I knew how close I'd come to being erased. They made the announcement that Friday in the all-hands meeting. Tanya gave a short speech about new leadership vision. My camera was off the whole time. I didn't trust myself to look calm or gracious. The chat blew up. Congrats, Tara. So deserved. Can't wait to see what you do in Q3. I typed, thanks everyone, excited to get started. But inside, it didn't feel like a win. It felt like recovery. Because the damage Olivia did wasn't just in what she stole. It was what she made people believe. That I was paranoid. That I was hard to work with. That I was legacy while she was next gen. Some people had believed her. People I trusted. People who hadn't spoken to me since the week the fake HR complaint went around. The following week, I found the envelope. No name, just slid under my office door. Inside, a single printed email. From Tanya to the VP. Subject line. Need to figure out what to do about Tara before Q3. Olivia's our star. Dated a week before my promotion meeting. It was real. And someone had slipped it to me. I stared at it for a long time. Not Olivia's betrayal. Tanya. I thought she was just duped. But she had planned it. She knew. The HR sync, the sudden performance silence, the optic-shifting job description. All of it co-signed. Maybe even initiated. And the only reason I got the job now. Because I made myself a threat. They promoted me not to reward my work, but to avoid exposure. That night, I had dinner with my friend Kayla, the one who told me to start recording everything. I showed her the envelope. She read it twice. Jesus. I nodded. You think I should leak it? She looked at me, paused, then asked, what do you want more, justice or survival? That hit hard. Because I knew the answer. Survival. At least for now. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I created a new Google Drive folder that weekend. Labeled Next Round. And I started collecting. Soft power tactics. Boardroom body language. Slack praise that didn't match behavior. Performance review phrasing that could be double read. Because Olivia was just a symptom. The disease was deeper. Systemic. And maybe one day, when the timing's right, I'll leak everything. But for now, I sit at the head of the table. Smile when they clap. Speak when they ask. And watch. Because once you've been targeted, you don't go back to being naive. You go quiet. You go sharp. You build your receipts early. You learn things when you survive a workplace ambush. You learn who never looked you in the eye during meetings. Who took your side in Slack threads, then retracted in email. Who smiled when you got promoted, but their teeth never touched. I was hyperware now, watching for shifts, sensing pressure in the air like a storm system. 2 weeks into the new role, I was invited to a meeting I wasn't supposed to be in. It was an off-calendar strategy sync between Tanya, 2 directors, and a new senior hire from marketing, some guy named Derek. It was in room B12, a corner conference room no one ever used because it had horrible lighting and a broken screen. Except this time, someone had fixed it and left the door slightly cracked. I'd passed by because I forgot my laptop charger. And I heard my name. Tara's sharp, but she doesn't really know how to sell a vision. Tanya's voice. She's great on the back end. I just don't know if she can carry cross-functional leadership without defaulting to control. I froze in the hallway. Director 1 chimed in, she's definitely got edge right now. HR, still on eggshells around her. Director 2, she's watching everything. I say give her a year, see if she settles down. Then Derek, who I'd met exactly once, said, so you're grooming me for her job, or what? Laughter. Real laughter. Then Tanya, let's just say we're evaluating culture fit long-term. I backed away from the door like it was radioactive. My hands were shaking. So much for promotion. They weren't rewarding me. They were stalling me. Letting me burn out on a shiny new title while they prepped my replacement. Someone with no history, no heat, no receipts. But this time, I had my phone. And the voice memo was still recording from the hallway. I sent the audio to my personal email. Then I looped in my lawyer friend, Rachel. She'd been following the whole saga like it was a Netflix docuseries. Is this legal? I asked her. She shrugged. Depends on your state's recording laws, but is it damning? Yes. I didn't send it to HR. I knew better. Instead, I sent Tanya a calendar invite. Subject, follow-up, culture fit plus strategic vision. She accepted it without comment. I walked into the meeting wearing my calmest blazer and coolest expression. I know you've had concerns about my fit, I said the moment the door closed. She blinked, Tara, what? I pulled out a piece of paper. No USB this time, just a printed transcript. Not the audio. Just the words. Verbatim. Her quote. The others. Derek's little smirk. Her exact phrasing. Let's just say we're evaluating culture fit long-term. She went pale. I'd like to formally request that all conversations about succession, performance, and internal realignment be documented, I said. preferably with full meeting summaries CC'd to legal. Her mouth opened, then closed. I also have reason to believe that decisions about my role are being made off-channel. I won't push further, yet, but if I'm looped out again, I will escalate. I smiled. Not with my eyes. Not with my mouse. With intent. She didn't reply. She just nodded. And for once, stayed silent. That week, Derek stopped making eye contact. By Friday, he was reassigned to a temporary launch project in a different region. And Tanya. She started CCing me again. A little too much. Sometimes for things that had nothing to do with me. As if to say, see, you're included. I didn't trust it. But I documented it. Because this was no longer about a promotion. This was about survival. About knowing that in some rooms, your name is currency. In others, it's collateral. One night, I got an email. No subject line. No body. Just a PDF attachment. It was titled, HR Recording Policy 2021 V Final, PDF. I opened it. Section 4.3. Employees may not record internal conversations unless they reasonably believe such recordings are necessary to document misconduct. Anonymous sender. No signature. Just one sentence at the bottom. You're covered, use it wisely. Someone was watching. Maybe even rooting for me. And that's when I knew. This company was full of whispers. Some weaponized. Some protective. But either way, the walls had ears. And I wasn't the only one taking notes anymore. The email dropped on a Wednesday. Subject: RE, Strategic Realignment Drafts, Confidential. But it wasn't just sent to me. It was blasted to a half-dozen department heads, legal, and crucially, the VP of People Operations. I wouldn't have even known if Maddie from Product hadn't pinged me. Hey, just saw this. Was this meant to go out? You okay? My stomach twisted. I checked my inbox. And there it was. Attached, a draft deck labeled Q4 Transition Planning, Internal Eyes Only. Slide 6. Potential Restructure, Strategic Lead Role Redundancy. It was me. Again. The same language, new quarter. New scapegoat. But this time, someone had leaked it before it could be quietly actioned. And the best part, I didn't do it. My first instinct was panic. I mean, come on, how many times can you survive a knife to the back before your spine gives out? But this wasn't sabotage. It was a flare gun. Someone had pulled the curtain. And suddenly, Tanya had to answer to people far above her pay grade. Because this wasn't just petty ambition anymore. This was a pattern. Promote the woman, undermine her behind closed doors, test new hires in soundproof rooms, let her run strategy, then reframe it as control. This wasn't about Olivia. This was about how the company treated women who stopped being mentors and started being leaders. I waited. Didn't respond. Didn't forward. Didn't panic. I let them come to me. By noon, I had a meeting invite from the VP of People. By 1:15, I was sitting in his office across from Legal and Tanya, who looked like she hadn't slept. Before we begin, I said calmly, I'd like to note that I did not draft, share, or have prior access to that slide deck, but I'm deeply concerned it exists. They nodded. Legal asked routine questions. How long had I been aware of potential restructuring? Who had spoken to me? Had I accessed any shared folders? I answered everything straight. Clear. No emotion. Then I said, but since we're on the subject, this is the second time in a single quarter that a senior leader has suggested my role is redundant, once behind closed doors, now via leaked deck. And then I pulled out my own binder. Titled, Pattern of Undermining, Q2, Q4 Timeline. I laid out the legacy comments, the Q3 role merger suggestion, Olivia's false HR complaint, the off-channel recording in room B12, the leaked transition document from this morning, all carefully phrased as documented behaviors. No accusations, just patterns, Ben from legal said nothing. But the VP leaned back and exhaled through his nose, like someone had just punched him in the gut with subtlety. "We'll need to review this," he said. "Of course," I replied. "I trust it'll be taken seriously." Tanya didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her face said it all. She knew she'd been outplayed. That night, I got a message from an unlisted Slack user. Handle at carbon copy. Smart play, they didn't expect a binder. Another ping. Careful though, Tanya has friends outside the org chart. I stared at it, heart pounding. This was too much. Too cinematic. But it was real. And someone else, maybe even multiple people, were in the shadows, pulling strings to keep me visible. To keep them accountable. By end of week, Tanya was transitioning to a consulting role. They phrased it like she was off to save a failing startup. But everyone knew. The truth had too many teeth now. And legal didn't want blood on the company blog. Her goodbye email was sterile. 2 lines of gratitude, no mention of names, not even mine. And that silence was the loudest confession yet. I didn't throw a party. I didn't pop champagne. I just sat at my desk, typed out a company-wide memo reframing our Q4 strategy in my own words, and sent it with the subject. Moving forward, no more secrets. I hit send. And I let the silence sit. Because power, real power, isn't just about getting the seat. It's about making it impossible for anyone to remove you without setting off alarms. It was supposed to feel like a triumph. I walked into the quarterly all-hands with my name now listed as Director of Strategic Integration. New title, new org chart, new people reporting to me. Same building, same walls, same unease. "Congrats," someone whispered as I passed by the coffee station. But it wasn't admiration, it was caution. People didn't make eye contact, not the way they used to. Because in this place, survivors make everyone else uncomfortable. They remind you of what's behind the glass doors, of how fast it all shifts. One week you're the team lead, and the next you're realigning. I'd seen 4 reorgs in 6 months, 2 departures, 1 sabbatical. And now, I was the name at the top of the slides. But all I could think about was, who's watching me the way I watched Olivia? Because paranoia doesn't leave when you win. It just changes shape. The new VP, Andrew, seemed genuine. Tall, soft-spoken, from a rival firm with a reputation for transparency. He asked to sync casually, 2 weeks into Q1 planning. We met in the outdoor atrium. Neutral ground, no glass walls, no suspicious Slack messages. "I've been reviewing your trajectory," he said. That word. Trajectory. Like I'd been launched through corporate space and somehow not burned up. "I want to understand what kept you here," he said. I sipped my coffee. "You mean why I didn't quit?" He gave a slow smile. "I mean why you didn't walk, even after being set up twice." I stared at him. Because no one had said it that directly. Not even legal. "Because I didn't want her to win," I said. "Any of them." He nodded, and now. The truth was, I didn't know. Because once your whole job becomes not getting erased, it's hard to remember what you were building before the erasure began. 2 weeks later, I found the notebook. It had been left on my new desk, accidentally or not, I'll never know. Inside, in blocky handwriting. "If she plays the long game, match her, but don't forget what game you were playing first." Page after page of client notes, launch roadmaps, my handwriting, but from years ago. This wasn't Olivia's notebook. It was mine. When I thought I'd lost in the last office move. Back when I still stayed late because I loved solving problems, not because I was scared to be replaced. I flipped to a post-it on page 47. Vision, empower teams, eliminate bottlenecks, reward transparency. A mission statement. From before the war. Before survival became the only goal. I closed the notebook and exhaled. I'd forgotten why I started. Maybe this new role, this new beginning, wasn't just a cleanup act. Maybe it could be mine again. But just when the ground started to feel steady, another calendar invite landed in my inbox. Subject, lunch. From Olivia Brenner. No message, no attachments, just the timestamp and a location. Not a work email, her personal Gmail again. I stared at it like it might bite. Was she back in the industry? Was this a trap? Why reach out now? The name triggered every muscle memory, every voice memo, every second of humiliation, documentation, escalation. I should have deleted it. Blocked her. But instead, I hit accept. We met at a little cafe 5 blocks from the office. She was already there when I arrived, coffee in hand, phone face down, red lipstick perfect. "Hi, Tara," she said softly. I sat across from her and said nothing. She exhaled, "I owe you an apology." I let her sit in that silence. "I did what I thought I had to do," she said, "but I was wrong, you didn't deserve any of it." Still, I said nothing. Then she added, "But I wasn't the only one in on it." My breath caught. "What?" She glanced down, fiddled with her sleeve. There was a whole setup, a quiet plan. You were too visible, too senior without the VP title. Tanya wanted to make you the scalable martyr. I just played my part. I blinked. "Why are you telling me this now?" She looked up. "Because someone's about to do the same thing to you." And that's when she handed me a flash drive. Silver, plain. No label. No explanation. Just slid across the table, the same way I once did to Tanya. "Watch it," she said, "then decide if you still want to stay." And she left. Didn't look back. I stared at the drive in my hand, pulse racing. Because I already knew. Whatever was on it would break everything open. I didn't open the flash drive at the office. Too risky, too many eyes, too much potential for digital footprints. Instead, I waited until midnight. Lights off, blinds drawn, laptop on airplane mode. The file was video. Titled, Exec Review Q4 Strategy Cut, MP4. It started in a boardroom I'd never been in, probably off-site, judging by the background. No nameplates, just men and women in polished suits seated in a horseshoe around a projector. The footage was grainy, like it had been recorded on a phone hidden in a coat pocket. Audio crackled, but was clear enough to hear one name repeatedly. "Mine." "Tara, been a necessary phase," a woman was saying. I recognized her voice, our CFO. She steadied the ship after Tanya's mess, but she's not long-term optics for this kind of growth. Too polarizing, too many receipts. Laughter followed. "So what's the plan?" someone else asked. Then unmistakably, Andrew's voice. "We elevate her, let her own Q1. Burnout will do the rest. By Q3, we'll have the opening to pivot." Another voice, smug and smooth. "Already grooming replacements." Andrew again, of course quietly, "She won't see it coming." The video ended with someone saying, "She's not a brand, she's a cautionary tale." I sat frozen. No air in my lungs. Not anger, not even shock. Just clarity. They hadn't stopped me. They just pressed pause. Let me believe I'd won. But the war was still being waged. And this time, it was higher up. Cleaner, smarter, framed as opportunity, not opposition. And that was the twist. It was never personal. It was systemic. I was useful until I was. Strategic until I became a liability with a memory. And I was being managed, not promoted. The next morning, I called a lawyer. A real one, not Rachel. A corporate litigator with a track record in whistleblower protections and wrongful demotion suits. I didn't file anything yet. I just asked questions. Then I set a meeting with HR. I've been made aware of off-site conversations that frame my current position as temporary, pending manufactured burnout and strategic phasing out, I said flatly. I handed them a transcript of the video, not the file, not yet. Ben from legal asked, "Where did you get this?" I smiled. I was told I wouldn't see it coming. That week, the temperature shifted. Suddenly, I was the most dangerous person in the building. Meetings were more formal, Slack messages more careful. Andrew went on vacation. The CEO scheduled a listening lunch. And by Friday, I had a new offer on my desk. SVP of Strategy. Company-wide announcement. Public, no merger, no burnout plan, no groomed replacement. It wasn't just a promotion. It was a shield. A message, don't touch her. I took it. Not because I wanted it, but because it bought me time. To finish documenting, to mentor quietly, to protect the younger women rising behind me who didn't yet know what rooms they'd never been invited into. And most of all, to write the playbook I never got. Olivia never reached out again. The flash drive was enough. She gave me a weapon. And in return, she walked away clean. Maybe we were even now. Or maybe not. But I learned something from her, twisted as it is. Sometimes you don't need revenge. You just need proof. Proof that you weren't crazy. That the sabotage was real. That your instincts weren't overreactions. And that your quiet resilience scared the hell out of them. If you're reading this and wondering whether to speak up, whether to escalate, whether to record the damn meeting, let me be clear. Do it. Don't wait for validation. Don't hope your manager will protect you. Don't assume HR works for you. Just start collecting. Because in corporate America, loyalty is optional, but documentation is power. And next time they call you difficult, say no, I'm informed.